The cornfield sprawled out before me like a blanket of green, with the wind rustling through it. Then came a loud rumble, and the ground shook as an SUV tore through the field, crushing stalks under its wheels. The vehicle didn't even slow down as it slammed into my Scarecrow, knocking its head off with a sickening crack of wood and straw. It landed on the hood with an eerie thud. I stood there on the porch, coffee in hand, staring in disbelief as the SUV sped off, barely slowing as it rolled over the broken remains of my Scarecrow. Brenda didn't even glance back. That's when I knew Brenda wasn't your average neighbor. She wasn't just rude. She was a force of nature, barreling through my quiet life as if the land was hers to dominate. She'd moved into the big, shiny house across the road 6 months ago, bringing with her the kind of suburban attitude that grated against everything this town stood for. My Scarecrow, Sam, had been there long before her, a fixture of this land that my father had crafted years ago. His button eyes were faded, and straw poked through his clothes, but he had spirit. He was part of the place, just like the old barn or the tractor that still sputtered to life on chilly mornings. But to Brenda, Sam was an eyesore. Every time she passed by, she'd sneer at him, muttering about how he didn't fit with her pristine, cookie-cutter ideals. She had a vision for the town, her town, one of manicured lawns, trimmed hedges, and perfect fences. Sam, with his creaky joints and worn flannel, didn't belong in that picture. I figured she'd come around eventually. Small-town life had a way of softening people. But not Brenda. She doubled down on her rigid, clean-cut world and made it clear she didn't like the messiness of real life. The first time Sam went down, I chalked it up to a freak accident, maybe a careless driver, a slippery turn in the rain. I fixed him up, not perfectly, but enough to stand tall again. 2 days later, Sam was flat on the ground again, his chest bearing the unmistakable mark of a bumper. I knew who the culprit was. When I saw Brenda at the feed store, she smirked and casually suggested I put Sam somewhere safer, winking like it was all just a game. I wasn't the type to start trouble over a Scarecrow, but this wasn't just about straw and sticks. Sam had been made by my father, with my hands as a kid, and I wasn't going to let her trash that history. The next time Sam went down, I knew I was done with patience. I could feel the tension in the air, heavy as a storm. That night, I went to bed with the uneasy feeling that things were escalating. Sure enough, Saturday morning, I came home to find Sam shredded, with splintered, straw scattered, and a mocking note left where he'd stood. Get a real decoration. Brenda thought she'd broken me, but she'd just given me a reason to push back. I dragged Sam's remains to the barn, placing him on my dad's old workbench, surrounded by tools and half-finished projects. I didn't just want to fix him. I wanted to make him something more, something she couldn't destroy. I spent the next few nights working on him, welding steel pipes to his frame, reinforcing every part until he was less Scarecrow, more fortress. I wasn't just rebuilding a figure made of straw. I was building a message. Sam was going to stand tall again, but this time he wouldn't bend. Brenda continued her little war of attrition, driving by nightly with her smug grin, watching Sam's limp form like it was some kind of victory. One night, she parked on top of him, casually checking her phone like my field was just her personal parking lot. I didn't say a word, let her think she was winning, but I knew it was time to stop waiting. I opened the barn door one evening to the familiar scent of oil and dust. My dad's old welding equipment was ready, and I had everything I needed. I sketched out a design for a new Sam, still with the hat and flannel, but now with a steel frame and arms that could withstand anything. I worked late into the night, sparks flying as I shaped the metal. The radio hummed softly, and outside, the night was quiet except for the occasional croak of a frog. By morning, Sam was no longer just a Scarecrow. He was a statement. I stood there on the porch the next day, coffee in hand, watching as Brenda's SUV came barreling down the road. She didn't even slow down as she aimed for him, crashing into Sam with a force that crumpled her bumper and shattered her headlights. Her car came to a stop, airbags deployed, and there was Sam, unshaken, standing tall with his steel frame beneath the straw. Brenda stumbled out of her car, screaming about lawsuits and how I'd set a trap for her. But I just stood there, watching her flail. You drove onto my land and destroyed my Scarecrow, I said calmly. If anyone's got a case, it's me. Sheriff Dan showed up shortly after, listened to Brenda's rant, and checked Sam out. He shrugged and said, "It's sturdy but legal." Brenda was furious, but there was nothing she could do. As the tow truck hauled away her wrecked SUV, the whole town watched, amused. The following weeks were quiet. Brenda tried to fight back with threats of lawsuits, but it was clear to everyone she was only trying to save face. Word spread fast, and it wasn't long before Brenda found herself out of options. Her HOA kicked her out, her insurance dropped her, and when the papers hit, she knew it was over. I saw her packing up a rental SUV, leaving the town she'd tried to change behind. The dust cloud she left in her wake was all that was left of her. As for Sam, he stood tall, still wearing the sheriff's badge Dan had given him. Unofficial but a town joke. From the porch, I raised my coffee cup. "Good work, Sam," I said. The farm breathed easier now. Sam had always been more than just a scarecrow. He was a reminder that standing firm and quiet in the face of adversity was the best way to win. And if anyone tried to mess with this land again, they'd have to go through Sam first. As the dust settled on Brenda's departure, the farm felt lighter. There was a sense of calm that hadn't existed before, a quiet reassurance that the land had stood its ground and come out victorious. Sam, once a simple scarecrow, had become a symbol of resilience. His patchwork clothes and weathered face no longer just stood guard over the crops. They were a testament to the quiet strength that came with staying true to yourself, no matter how hard others tried to push you off course. Brenda had been a storm, loud, forceful, and determined to rewrite everything she touched. But storms, no matter how powerful, eventually pass. The town had watched as she tried to force her ideals onto the land. But in the end, it was Sam, that humble figure made of straw and steel, who stood firm. Her vision of perfection, so rigid and inflexible, couldn't withstand the quiet determination that ran deep in the heart of this place. As I stood on the porch, looking out over the cornfields and the barn, I couldn't help but smile. It wasn't just about winning some petty battle over a scarecrow. It was about reminding ourselves of the values that made this place home: patience, respect for the land, and the quiet power of standing your ground. There was no need for loud confrontations or grand gestures. Just as Sam had proved, sometimes the best way to win is simply to endure. Brenda may have thought she was bringing change, but what she failed to understand was that some things don't need changing. The farm, with its crooked fences and weathered buildings, wasn't just a place. It was a story, and no one could rewrite that but the people who'd lived it. As for Sam, he'd always be here, guarding the land, standing tall against whatever challenges might come next. The storm had passed, and the peace that followed felt earned. The farm was home again, just as it always would be.